He walked all that land. And now I must accelerate and move. I had experienced batterings and still limitations. I thought that this priest that initiated me into this world was a holy person and that all my afflictions were nothing else but, as you say, tribulations to sharpen the soul. After every tribulation there is a consolation, and the biggest consolation that I could expect was receiving messages from the Lord. All the messages are written with such a clarity, and what they provide, the information and the enlightenment, is not from my own mind, is coherent, and it is from the Hebrew race and from God's and holy discernment. I also received the gift of the Holy Spirit, and I had the gift of wisdom, knowledge, counseling. Therefore, I have written essays that are important to the church, and when I tried to send this to Rome, they were ignored. They retained, I sent a copy to Rome and a copy to the nuncio of the United States of America. The messages were not accepted. They were not interested in a prophet, and I learned later on why. It has passed since then 4 years. In 2013, Pope, who was described in the prophecy as Petrus Romanus, because Petrus, the leader that evil put into the church, not God, because it's not related to the Peter, since the spin-off of the church that was the original establishment in the Last Supper and was the Christianity at the beginning, developed into the Catholic Church. Cathos means universal church, and that spin-off comes from the evangelization of Paul, who met Jesus in Damascus and was the instrument to prophesy and to teach the Gentiles. Therefore, we all are Gentiles. People all around the world call themselves Muslims, call themselves Christians, because we all had the same origins. And Jesus is not other than Joshua, the prophet. And since the prophet was the word that took flesh, is not other than Allah himself walking on earth. And of course, because he was Allah and he has the holiness and the word to make miracles and healing and cast demons and so far so forth, who, like Allah, dared to the man that pretended to be so, even though it was God himself, but we didn't know that. So, my darlings, there you go. 3 main religions, many other small ones, but these 3 main religions have the same root, had the same land, had the same people. From the Canaan, the land of Canaan, came the origins of the Hebrew race, now called the nation of Israel. Figure it out. Why are we at war with our brethren when the Quran is very clear that we are brethren? Well, let's continue. Since Pope George Bergoglio came to sit in the leadership of the Catholic Church, the loss of holy beings and saints within that church and in other churches of the world or faith in the world has surmounted 150,000. It was written in Revelation, wasn't it? And what I have learned in the paranormal world about George Bergoglio, I cannot repeat in the real life, for it is abomination. There have been holy souls that have contacted me that the day of him sitting in Peter's chair, he killed a bishop called Ledman from Germany, and later on erased all track that he attended that council. Fortunately, when I was talked about it by him, by the very same bishop, after that, of course, I did find that he was there, but when I didn't know the magnitude of the powers of darkness, when I checked back in online, someone else took his place as the only one sent by Germany. The reason for that death was he witnessed an abomination, but I won't mention it because I had no proof. Anyway, we must say also that if you want to know how truthful is Pope to the teachings of God, knowing that there is one thing that it is unforgiven, which is the capital sin of killing. You shall not kill. For killing is an attempt against God himself. His fingerprint is life, and he is the only one that can take it away. Therefore, you shall not kill should be respected, and it is not much. But if you go to my site, heavenly-locutions.com, you go to the page of warriors and you see that the Lord has forgiven those that go to battle in his name and for their own nation, no matter what the nation is. It's a beautiful account, so I will say log in and read it, please. So, as I say, in his letter to initiate the year of mercy in 2015, September 2015, he said and recommended all the priests of the world to forgive the sin of abortion. Abortion is the killing of baby. Abortion is something that the Creator abhors. because life is a fingerprint, and because they used to give, if the mother was a saintly person, the body would carry the soul in early stage from the 16th week of pregnancy, the soul of a saint. And in the time 2012 or 2013, I am not so sure, but in the messages received, when he talked about abortion, we checked the abortion clinics in America, and there were so many millions of souls that have been maimed and that were in such a state that we have found them in refrigerator, we found them in clinics, we found them in fields, that father cried with the children. Some of them became cherubims. Just the little heads survived. Some of them had to be destroyed in embrace in God's hands. For their suffering were many, and the baby does feel pain as soon as the brain and the nerve system is developed. What a great cruelty. Woman said, "Our body are right," and I said, "Yes, your body, your right to die. If you want so and you want to separate yourself from the Creator. But when you have somebody in the temple of life, it was hidden in you because you had the responsibility of care for that case of the soul, of the spirit who had a destiny in the world. Sometimes our destiny was of greatness." Anyway, since Pope came, my suffering increased. So the aberrations in the church increased. The two spiritual fathers became as aberrated as he was. And now I had to come public in 2015, for my life was in jeopardy in Grand Rapids, for that is where the two priests that initiated me in this world live. I tried to find justice, but nobody listened to my plea. Whenever I was being nailed to my bed, unable to get up, in terrible, terrible pain, as you will call, an excruciator where the body shrinks in pain, but I couldn't move. Not even that was given to me. In a moment in which, after 72 hours, not eating, not being able to get up, I was asking God to take my life. And I learned the evil of these people when they start putting curses for me to die. When I finally got up, God was battling for me with some hidden holies. There was a voice that kept my sanity, so I wouldn't lose my mind in the horror of the last day. So I said, I will follow what the Bible said. I will scream at the rooftop what is said and happening in the darkness. So I denounced these people as a threat to America, because they can infiltrate the mind and, like Pope, affect the leaders of the world as they did affect the person that was in charge of the Senate seat, and that a couple of years ago, when he allowed Pope to speak to a whole Congress of the House of Representatives and the Senate, when the law said you shall not impose no religion. And I was astonished how the liberals that always fight against God being in any placement that has to deal with government or public place, even schools, allow the men that represented the church to speak to them. That was because I was subjugated to his powers. And the man cried, and he cried for no other reason, not because he was moved by the Pope's words and he cannot declare it, but I can, because I know it by knowledge and I know it by revelation, that he was crying because he was threatened to die if he spoke, and if he didn't allow Pope to speak to government. So he is a threat, and I had no fear, for I value my life in nothing. So when they threatened me with that, I said, go ahead, but I'm going to speak louder now, because I know that I'm not going to live any farther. Therefore, have it. The Catholic Church has been damaged by the black and dark powers of magic introduced mainly by George Bergoglio, the fourth Borgia, in the Papal line. Petrus Romanus. There was another Romanus, an illegitimate child of a pope, a Borgia pope. The child, the infant Romanus. Look in the internet and find it out. Therefore, Pope, being the Petrus Romanus, linked him to the Borgia's line. Bergoglio was a name adopted. Bergo, Borgia, very close, coming from Italy to Argentina, trying to escape the curse of the Borgia, as was revealed to me in the spiritual world. It's interesting and it's amazing. Schizophrenia or not, the history behind the Pope is amazing. So I know that the messages and the purity and the clarity of the spiritual world that surrounded me has been blurred by charades, by tall tales or stories concocted by the two priests that have been influenced by Pope, great magicians indeed, and he has Louis Bianco and Guido Marini in Italy. But here, the one that leads, the name that he bears has the initials in a drawing come from someone that was the first one to write about Satan and his satanic image, in which by the throne of Satan there was a stone that says his name, I can't recall the name of the guy, and the word Levi, and the letters D-E-L, which are the initials of the priest that initiated me into this world of schizophrenia. I have learned also